Hello viewers, friends and family, how are you all doing? I hope that today God is going to help us to discuss more issues on Anglicanism. Anglicanism. I want to put up a disclaimer again. This video is not intended to undermine any priest, bishop, organization, or any person. It is solely for our academic and knowledge about Anglican Church and its practices. For Anglicans and non-Anglicans, so we can all know what we do, our vestments, our outfits, who we are as Anglicans. Thank you as you listen. Today I want to discuss the titles in Anglican Church. Title. And before I go that route, I want to let us understand that we only have three orders in the Anglican Communion. That is the order of priest, or the order of bishop, priest, and deacon. Order of bishops, priest, and deacon. But we have several positions and ranks in our church. And so we are going to go through them today. We have what we call the Archbishop. Archbishop is a bishop that presides over other dioceses. He has his own diocese, and there are other dioceses under him. The leader of this group of dioceses is called and titled Archbishop. I'm going by the by alphabetical order, and despite that, we have another one we call Archdeacon. Archdeacon is a priest that has been appointed by the bishop to oversee or look after some carved out areas in his diocese. He's just like an administrator, helping the bishop. The diocese is divided into archdeaconry. So the archdeacon will be in that area. Then we have what we call aspirant. Aspirant is a person applying to be ordained. A person applying to be ordained into the ministry. So if you are applying to be ordained, you will be called an aspirant. We have bishop-elect, a person that has been elected to be bishop. Remember, this person could be a priest, a canon, or an archdeacon. So it is not necessarily that a person to become a bishop must be an archdeacon. We have what we call bishop ordinary. Bishop ordinary is actually what we call the diocesan bishop. So when you hear bishop ordinary, the terminology bishop ordinary simply refers to a person that is in charge of the diocese. And we have what we call canon. A canon is an honorary position given to a priest with certain responsibilities. But it must be given to a priest that have proven faithfulness, a priest that have proven to be a standard in both in liturgy and theology. And the Anglicanism, a priest who carries the church like a role model to others. And we have what we call the chaplaincy. You see, chaplaincy is usually priests that are posted outside the religious circles, like the military, hospital chaplaincy, government chaplaincy. But there is another one, the spiritual aspect of chaplaincy. And that's when somebody is posted to be the bishop's chaplain or chaplain in charge of a faculty. When I mean faculty, faculty could be groups created in different dioceses. Take, for instance, children's chaplain, knights chaplain. So this is what we call that. We have another one called coadjutor. Coadjutor. Coadjutor is a bishop elected, a person elected bishop and consecrated bishop sent to assist the ordinary, the diocesan, in the hope to become the diocesan. So when you are a coadjutor, that means you would definitely succeed the diocesan bishop. So you are called coadjutor. So if you are a coadjutor, just know that you are you're on the line to succeed the substantial bishop. We have what we call again commissary. Commissary. Bishops commissary are priests. They are not bishops, but they represent the bishop. When the bishop is ill out of the diocese, he could appoint a commissary, or in the absence of a bishop, any person the bishop sends to take his place outside the spiritual activities or duties of a bishop. A bishop can appoint a person to be in charge of the diocese or look after a certain part of the diocese where he's unable to get to. This person will be called commissary, bishop's commissary. And again, we have what we call curates. Curates. A curate is actually in France and some parts of Europe. A curate is actually the senior priest in charge of a church. But from the word curate, it means cure of soul. And but for those of us in Church of Nigeria and partly Church of England, a curate is an assistant priest, a priest who assists the rector or the vicar, as countries may call it. Some countries will call it rector, others will call it vicar. Dean is actually the most senior priest of a diocese, usually sent to the cathedral. He has a permanent seat in the cathedral. Deans are not subject for transfers. Deans, once you are a dean of a cathedral, that means you are in charge of the cathedral lower chapter, while the bishop will be in charge of the greater chapter of the cathedral. Then again comes the diocesan. We are in D right now. Diocesan. Diocesan simply refers to the diocesan bishop, the person in charge of the entire diocese. But again, I want to say something here. There is this one we call district dean. It is actually different from the dean of the cathedral. District dean are deans appointed in some rural areas where the bishop may want to put permanent some kind of priest for administrative purposes. So they are sent to the district. You know, in those days, there is what we call district head. That reminds me, there's something that is actually fading away in our church: superintendent. A priest may be in charge of his vestry. A priest may be in charge of his parish, but we not have the powers to call for what we call parish council if you are not made a district head and given the letter as a bishop, a priest in charge of the district. So it's called superintendent. When you are made a district head, you are called superintendent. That is the only time you have the powers to hold parish council. Not every priest holds parish council. If you are not made a superintendent, it is actually your archdeacon that should be conducting your your district meeting. Okay, that is the one I just spoke to you now about, called church parish council. So in those days, bishops will make somebody a district head, and he'll be called superintendent. And once you are made a superintendent, that means you are next step to becoming a canon. A priest, reverend, could be a superintendent. Not every parish priest is a superintendent. Not every parish priest is a superintendent. That is, I will employ most of our fathers, our bishops, to look into these old systems that were already put in place. There's another one in place. There's another one called honorary. Honorary. These honorary curates usually are curates sent to a parish, but they are not actually working full-time. These people could be called what we call non-stipendiary priests in our days. Again, I want to emphasize on this one called father. You see, it is not just the Roman Catholics that are addressed as father. Father means a priest. Like in the Igbo language, we will say Nnai. In other Yoruba language, we say Baba. And in English, father. So every priest is father and could be addressed as Reverend Father. Whether archdeacon, bishop, or anybody could be addressed as Reverend Father in God. I have this one, incumbent. Incumbent is primarily a priest in charge of a particular place. But there is this practice that is not in Church of Nigeria. But for learning purpose, I would want to talk about it. This is the one we call lay canon. A bishop can appoint a lay person a canon. Yes. Yes, I saw the argument somewhere on Facebook. I said, let me put it straight. A bishop can appoint a person a lay canon who is not a priest. And that means the person has proven to be of good character, sound learning, and committed in the doctrines of the church. Probably some of them are lay people, but they are as well theologians. They have studied theology, so they could be made. Then there is this title. Not every primate is the metropolitan. But Church of Nigeria chose metropolitan for their own, but I want to bring it for knowledge purpose. Not every primate is a metropolitan. A metropolitan is simply the bishop in charge of the metropolis of a particular country, and his see is not movable. Remember, when we say see also means diocese. And we have what we call ordinand. That is a mistake that should be corrected in Church of Nigeria. Not every person who goes to school is not an ordinand. An ordinand is a person, remember I said somebody aspiring for ordination is called aspirant. So after you have been accepted for ordination and you're already on the verge of getting ordained, you turn from aspirant to postulant. From postulant, you turn into ordinand. Ordinand is when you are actually ready for ordination. Okay? Then we have what we call ordinary. I have said that before. Ordinary is a person who is, how do I put it? Who is the diocesan bishop. There's this one called parson. 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 Parson simply means a priest. If you say somebody is a parson, is parson, that means the person is a priest. We have a pastor. Okay, some dioceses will use the term pastor for their church teachers. Yes, we do have pastors in the Anglican Church. They are licensed to minister the word of God, but they are, in most cases, they are not licensed to celebrate the Eucharist or the sacramentals. Well, then we have what we call postulant. A postulant is a seminarian, somebody at the verge of getting ordained. You become a postulant. We have brandadry. This is honorary canon. Brandadry, B-R-E-B-E-N-D-A-R-Y. Bendry. So this is just an ordinary canon sent to the cathedral. So he has a permanent seat at the cathedral. We have a person, usually a member of a clergy, who is responsible for organizing liturgy. So he's called precentor. And we have a priest in charge. Priest in charge is usually not the rector of the church. When you are said you are a priest in charge, that means there is somebody over you. There's somebody taking control of the affairs of the parish. You are just in charge, and the rector may be in another church. In most cases, we call it outstation. And there's this one we call presbyter. Presbyter, of course, you know, presbyter is a priest, and we have presiding bishop. Church of Nigeria will not use the term presiding bishop, but presiding bishop is usually a primate, like the Episcopal Church, the Episcopal Church of the US, the Episcopal Church in Canada and other parts. They use the terminology presiding bishop. We have primate. Of course, all of us know the head of the bishops, the entire province, a leader of a province, like the province of Church of Nigeria or the Church of Nigeria. We have provost. There's nothing different between a provost and a dean. A provost is, like I explained to the in the place of the dean. The provost is actually the dean. We have rector. Rector is a vicar, or in some cases, when he is sent to man a school owned by the church, you are either a rector. We have regional bishops. This one is creating confusion. But regional bishops are bishops that the diocesan bishop has actually created some part of his diocese to take care of, and he will give him certain specific duty. A bishop that has a large diocese, so he gives him some part of the diocese to oversee for him. But remember, if there is a regional bishop, he is still subject to the diocesan synod, which will be held and controlled by the diocesan bishop. So a regional bishop is not a diocesan bishop. A regional bishop is a bishop that has been given some part of the diocese to oversee. So somebody will ask me, what is the difference between a regional bishop and a suffragan bishop? A suffragan bishop is directly under the office of the diocesan bishop. So he takes orders from the diocesan bishop. He doesn't have any area to oversee. He is just purely an assistant to the diocesan bishop. We have what we call rural dean. We have deacon, diaconate, transitional diaconate. These are a deacon that has been made a deacon and he's in the process of becoming a priest. Despite that, you know, there are what we call permanent or vocational diaconate. It's either called permanent diaconate or vocational diaconate. So, but with these transitional deacons, they move from deacon to priest. But with vocational diaconate, you remain a deacon forever and ever. Brothers, and there are titles for all this. If you are an archbishop, you are called the most reverend. The most reverend in the Anglican Church. If you are a bishop, you are called, addressed as right reverend. But I want to make a remarkable note here. You see, Church of Nigeria call bishops lords. My Lord Bishop. In the actual sense, it is outdated because it was used during the medieval time. And this was when bishops were addressed as Lord Bishops, because they had actually political and certain class of offices that time that they mandate. But for those 26 bishops in the House of Lords in England, they have a permanent sit in the House of Lords, and they are called Lord Spiritual. That is why in the United States, the Episcopal Church will not address their bishops as Lord Bishop. In fact, the United States as a country wouldn't address their bishops as Lord Bishops. But saying this is just for our learning. For Church of Nigeria, it is my Lord Bishop, so we keep that in mind. But this is just for our knowledge. And just to let you know that a bishop is addressed as Right Reverend, whatever his name is. And an archdeacon is addressed the Venerable. The Venerable. A canon is addressed the Reverend Canon. But I see people write Venerable Canon. It's also correct. That means the canon has ecclesiastical office that he mans in the diocese. Let's say canon ordinary, canon for liturgy, canon for whatever would be called canon. Venerable Canon. He is a venerable. He has an archdeacon where he's manning, and he's also a canon. Of course, not every archdeacon was made a canon, right? There are some archdeacons that rose from the rank of reverend to the rank of archdeacon. They cannot be addressed as archdeacon canon. But if you have this portfolio, there's nothing wrong to address you as venerable canon. But to shorten the name, of course, if you keep writing Venerable Canon, this is very broad and doesn't make sense. So we have Reverend Canon and we have the Reverend. The Reverend. Always put the Reverend, the Venerable. So this is all for today. Oh, if you're a primate, there's no different title for you. You are either presiding bishop or the primate of a certain church. Let's say for Nigeria, the primate of Church of Nigeria. And remember, they will always put and the metropolitan. The metropolitan is because he is situated in Abuja. Thank you for listening and God bless you. Thank you. See you again when we come with more.